Hi everyone, I'm Zoe Feldbein with Strive Medical, and today I am joined by Julia Duff, the Executive Director of the Spina Bifida Association of New York State. As you all know, October is Spina Bifida Awareness Month, and we wanted to take some time to highlight the challenges that individuals and families face, as well as the amazing work that SBANYS is doing in the community. Julia, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure and honor to be here during Spina Bifida Awareness Month and to partner with Strive Medical.
Yeah, so let's jump right into it. What are some of the biggest challenges you see kids with spina bifida and their families navigate on a day-to-day basis?
So, Spina bifida is a birth defect, and it occurs in the first month of pregnancy when the spinal column is forming. And ultimately, there are a range of healthcare challenges that are associated with spina bifida. So the first thing is really medical care. A person with spina bifida can have many surgeries and see multiple providers, including neurosurgery, urology, orthopedics, gastroenterology. So there's a very big need to find knowledgeable doctors, to find care that's local to you, and to find care that is coordinated in some format. That's really the best practice to make sure that the whole person is being seen and being treated, and that they have their, their physical health and their basic needs taken care of. We do see a lot of our families travel for healthcare, and so one of our organization initiatives is to help improve opportunities and coordinated care in New York State. I'd say the other common challenge that our young families face is isolation. So spina bifida is a snowflake condition. There are no two people who are impacted exactly alike. The example I like to use relates to mobility. So you could see a child who is living with spina bifida who is a full-time wheelchair user because they're depending on where the spina bifida occurs on the spine, they experience paralysis from, or some form of paralysis from below that point. And there are some children with spina bifida who are fully ambulatory and don't require any assistive devices or technology. So it's not one of those conditions where you're going to see someone who always looks exactly like you and know, like, oh, this is my community. These are my people. And spina bifida isn't a rare condition, but I will say it's just overlooked in that sense. And then really the third challenge I would say is how hard it is for our families to find accurate information. So a young family, right upon diagnosis, they're making life-changing medical decisions. And how do we make sure they have accurate information that's going to give them what they need to make the next best decision? And then, what services exist for young families with spina bifida? So maybe they're going to pursue early intervention. Maybe they want to pursue a health home. Maybe they want home care. And how do you find out where all of those resources are, what's available to you? As they age, then it's education and working with the school to make sure that the child has access to the educational needs to have a successful school experience. And there's teaching kids how to go to the bathroom and utilize their supplies on their own, and making sure that they have opportunities to engage with their peers. So where's the, if needed, adaptive recreation, adapted physical education. So it really, starts right at diagnosis, and there's a lot of decisions that need to be made, and it's not wonderfully coordinated or available. And I will say, I think that's where our organization steps in to support those young families.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information. It was really great to get to hear it. And then now I better understand the challenges that young families face. So now when I go to work, it's a little bit easier for me to understand what they go through on a daily basis. So as you said, school age, so as they grow up, what shifts? What new challenges do adults with spina bifida tend to face?
Absolutely. So, we talked about it being overwhelming, but for children or young families, um, a lot of times they do have the support of programming. There are just more supports out there available for kids with disabilities and kids with chronic health conditions like spina bifida. So, they have their teachers, they have friends in their classroom, they have their parents. And when they start aging, spina bifida doesn't go away. It it really is different for everyone, the aging experience. And because for so long spina bifida was considered a pediatric condition, they don't necessarily have a lot of coordinated medical care for adults with spina bifida. There's not a lot of adult care providers. We are lucky to have a few adult clinics here in New York State, but that's rare. There are a lot of states that don't have any coordinated adult care. And we're working on that on a national and state level. So it goes from to hopefully from being a coordinated pediatric care setting to transition your doctors and then make sure you have coordinated medical care. Make sure that they work with your insurance. Make sure that they have knowledge of spina bifida. There's a lot of doctor education that our adults have to do, because they're kind of educating, I wouldn't say educating their doctors. Obviously, doctors are smart, they
Yeah.
know what they're doing. But there's some unique things about spina bifida, and they share that information in those meetings with their doctors to try and make sure that they're getting the best care they can. And we do believe that the consumer knows their body best. So they'll know really what's going on with them medically, but they do rely on a good relationship with their doctors to make sure that they're heard and they're getting the care they need and being guided and directed in the right ways.
Yeah.
So supports decrease and responsibilities increase for our adults living with spina bifida. So, there's still a lot of stigma around what a person with spina bifida can and cannot do. And I will say, I think anything's possible, but everyone's path will be different. Whether someone is leaving high school and working with something like Access VR because they want to drive or they want to work, maybe they want to volunteer, whatever that looks like for them, they should start setting those goals in high school. And there's, stories that we're told of students going into their meeting with their guidance counselor and then being like, well, why do you even want to go to college? You don't need to go to college. And some of that ableist stigma is just, of course, still prevalent, and having to break down the belief that people with spina bifida can and should be included everywhere. Again,
Yeah.
it's not usually intentional. It's just you can't know what you don't know. And we know at the Spina Bifida Association of New York State that people with spina bifida can work, they can drive, they can live independently, they can have babies. And so providing that public education and awareness is important, because it ends up limiting what they're informed about, and it limits their decisions, which then limits their opportunities. So big picture is, there's some stigma that is still there about people with disabilities. And as people with spina bifida age, their responsibilities increase, all the while their supports decrease.
Yeah.
And that is very stressful. It's overwhelming. And just like young families, it can feel very isolating.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Totally understand that. So we talked about early, we talked about as they grow up and become adults. So how does the Spina Bifida Association of New York State step in to support families and individuals through those different stages of life?
Yeah, so we do a lot. And I think that's because, there's no facet of life that spina bifida doesn't impact for these families and these consumers. It's a part of who they are. Um, and so we really focus though on four key areas. The first one being health. So an example of a service we provide is spina bifida clinic coordination and social work services. We have a program and clinical manager who goes in to the hospitals and meets with the families after they've met with all the doctors to say, How are your appointments? What else is going on in your life? And so we might find out that everything's going really well, but they're not meeting their, orthopedic goals because they're in an area where there's not a lot of therapists who can come and do in-home physical therapy. So their child is experiencing maybe some delays in their development as a result of where they live. And, we're going to help them identify resources to mitigate those challenges, those barriers. So I used therapy as an example, but this could be, we live in a 2-story apartment. I've carried my child up the stairs for all of their life, and now they're getting so heavy and it's not attainable anymore. I need to find first floor housing because my child needs to be in an accessible setting. And how can we work through that? So it's a beautiful relationship that we have with these hospitals to make sure that it's not just focused on the medical, but really looking at the whole health of a person. Because again, things like insurance, transportation, housing, they affect your physical health. And so we appreciate that the doctors are always so willing to partner with an agency like ours, so that we can make sure we're really empowering our consumers to have access to what they need. But we also do like health related projects. So we'll do programs that have health and wellness incorporated. We do a doctor database, and that's a way for people to kind of find local specialists. We do a state conference. So there's different ways that we really support the health and wellness and hospital relations for our consumers. The second key piece of what we do, I would say, is programming. So I've talked a little bit about isolation. It's really important for people to have peer support, to have someone who gets it. And our consumers are the experts. They've been through these systems. They know what's going to work best. And so when they can get together, you can almost visualize that sigh of relief of talking to someone else who gets it and getting the answer to like a long awaited question that they haven't been able to ask their other mom friends or dad friends or just general friends about. So our programs, we have an adult group, and we do a lot of regional and recreational programs. So things that promote health and wellness, things that promote community and empowerment and networking. And then our big one I touched on, the state conference, that's a multi-day event, and we'll bring in professional experts to talk about what's really important or pressing right now in the community. So this past July, we focused on mental health and wellness and the hidden challenges associated with spina bifida, because it is viewed as primarily a physical disability, but there's trauma, there's stress, there's intellectual disabilities that can be associated with spina bifida due to hydrocephalus. And so we really wanted to give some love and attention to those topics, again, to make sure we're attending to the whole person. The other two areas that we focus on are education and then advocacy and awareness. So we do a lot of presentations, whether it's a business who wants to be better informed about the experiences of people with disabilities, we'll go in and do a lunch and learn. We present in college classes on spina bifida and our services. We table at community events. We do as much, marketing as possible. And so we want to educate the public. We want to educate the people on the front lines working with our consumers. And then we want to educate the consumers because, as I mentioned, the information isn't readily available in one little neat box tied with a bow. It's digging, and it's a lot of work for our people to just have to spend time digging to find the answers to things that should be more readily available to them. So we do outreach through social media and our website that really is just getting the information into the hands of the people who need it. And then big picture is the advocacy piece. So supporting legislative action that will enhance the lives of our consumers and getting our consumers informed in legislative action so they have the tools and resources to be effective change makers. So they have the self-advocacy that they've had to use when it comes to doctors and school and doing that to affect policy. I hear a lot our consumers say, I want it to be different for the next generation of families living with spina bifida. And so advocacy is really a great tool for them to engage in as a way to support long-term change in how people with disabilities, specifically in New York State, but also across the country, receive care and support.
Yeah. Well, you guys sound like you're quite busy over there.
I know it's a mouthful. It's very hard. I've broken it up into 4 branches, and it is still so much that we do, and so much to be done. Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. So, can you share a program or initiative you're really excited about right now? Something that's going to make a really big difference in the community?
I'm excited for 2026. We're starting to plan our programs right now. We are working on, starting to look at securing funding because we want to add 2 new retreats, a young family retreat and an adult retreat. So one would be a family camp, and one would be more of a conference weekend for adults to really enhance the support offerings they have to receive that peer support and connection and time with each other. So we know how impactful those are from the years of doing things where we've gotten people together. This year when we went to the Yankee game and Strive was our sponsor, you could see it in the pictures. Our folks just love being together. So we're excited to really provide more opportunities for that next year. And we like to make sure that nothing we do comes at a cost to our consumers. So we work really hard to raise funds and secure grants that are going to allow our consumers to receive these services at no cost. Because we shouldn't be, taking anything. We really should only be enhancing their lives.
Okay, so for people who might not know much about SBANYS, what's the best way that they can get plugged in and support the work you're doing?
So there's 2 ways. I'd say social media. We're really active on Instagram and Facebook, and our website. You can sign up to receive news through our website, but we have a really great team here who is constantly getting the word out, updating the website, and keeping our social media fresh with events and education and things that are really relevant to our community. So both of those spots are perfect for anyone looking to learn more. Our Facebook handle is SBANYS1. And our Instagram is Spina Bifida NYS. And then our website is www.sbanys.org. So those 3 mechanisms would be best. And you can contact us too right through any of those avenues. So if you have further questions that aren't answered or you want to learn more or chat, you can find us that way.
Yeah, well, Julia, thank you again for sharing your time and insight with us and for the incredible work you and your team are doing every day to support people living with spina bifida. For those of you watching, if you'd like to learn more or get involved, be sure to check out the Spina Bifida Association of New York State. And from all of us at Strive Medical, thank you for tuning in and helping us raise awareness this month.
Thank you.